Now, Deputy Speaker, it's clear that the Deputy Minister is incapacitated. He's clueless, doesn't know what's happening in the department. That's why he can even rely on artificial intelligence. So ministers are here of the GNU. The rule book says they must...
People who are white are foreigners or South Africans. None of you can make that determination. But I can tell you, you can tell that through smell, through a sight, through touch. You tell us that this one is not South African. Whereas you have Xhosas in Zimbabwe, you have Xhosas in South Africa, you have Ndebeles in Zimbabwe, you have Zulus in Zimbabwe. And this 1884 Berlin Conference still has an effect even today. That is the impact of Verwoerd. And we're not acknowledging and undoing it. We have to undo everything that Verwoerd has done, including education. We need to educate our people. If we're going to truly liberate our people, everything that the apartheid government did, we must undo. Meaning education, special development, all of that must be undone by a government that cares for our people. And that government is only EFF. So that's where we are.
The EFF is not struggling. The EFF is not having problems with filling positions left by those who departed. I do not think they'll get the same pedigree and the same caliber, but in terms of filling positions, I don't think they will struggle. It's almost like it's a football match. It's a football club that goes through. I mean, if you look at, I'm just going to give a sports analogy because I'm a sportsman. The Proteas of Graham Smith, there's been trickle-down phases of replacing the grades with new guys. And if you look, you might think they are poor now because of the big names that you are used to seeing playing at the Proteas. But no, it's just the same team. It's just the names that you are not used to. Because I look at the pedigree of the guys who are there. Omphile Mautu still there. Mautu is still there, very strong. But in particular, I want you to listen to Omphile, of course. And Omphile will come next, will come after Miss Mhlongo. I want you to listen to her and just tell me if nobody is given a chance to play good politics if it's not the first stint in Parliament, but let's just see how well she does. So you would understand Nobile comes from Tshwane, and I've seen Nobile. And in fact, Nobile and Omphile, I've known them before they went to Parliament, and I know what game they can bring. So there are those comrades that you say, no, this is good material for EFF and it's sustainable. It's not the first stint in Parliament. So it's just a case of if this one leaves, a next capable one will fall in. So it's a conveyor belt kind of scenario. The succession planning, it's very good, and I don't think there will be any depth. In terms of household names, that might be a bit different. Look at Sihle Lozi. Usihle is a typical EFF parliamentarian. You would see Ndlozi was differing a lot with Floyd, but for what it's worth, I don't think the depth will suffer. I don't think EFF will suffer in terms of depth. It will just be a different type of characters. You see, Ndlozi and Floyd, two different animals, all good in what they were doing. But you bring out the best out of any team by having different styles of play and everything. But look, listen to Mhlongo, listen to Omphile, and listen to Comrade Sihle, and you tell me if this is not the depth of EFF, and these are not the only ones, by the way, like we can't finish them, you will see that EFF has no problem replacing the guys that went. And I mean, we're still talking about Pambo and Tambo. I mean, the depth is too much. It's too much at EFF to worry about the guys who have left. Mission politically correct. Just tell me what you feel. I don't see any problems at EFF. I think the problems at EFF, of course, that I always say, is growing numbers and them admitting that. And I think even if they hit the ceiling, they admit it in their own corners. They're not going to come out publicly and tell us that they've hit the ceiling. Maybe they've hit the ceiling. Itada.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I would like to begin by sending our condolences to the families of the 14 members of the South African National Defence Force who recently lost their lives in the DRC. We cannot continue to refer to them through a number because they've got names. We salute Staff Sergeant William Edikola. We salute Staff Sergeant Molatley Ishmael Molatley. We salute Staff Sergeant Swatani Theophilus Seepe, Corporal Matumi Justice Malesa, Corporal Renae Namavulani, Lance Bombardier Itumeleng McDonald Moreo, Lance Corporal Zeke Moffat Molapo, Lance Corporal Metsi Stensley Rashishi, Rifleman Svatani Richard Chokwe, Rifleman Derek Maluleke, Rifleman Tsidiso Andres Mabele, Rifleman Calvin Louis Moari, Rifleman Muketi Joseph Mobe, Private Peter Jacobus Strido. The reckless deployment of South African troops in the DRC under the South African Development Community SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, SAMI DRC, which began in December 2023, was presented to us as a peacekeeping effort. However, the truth is that our soldiers are not there to maintain peace. They are engaged in a direct combat, fighting against the highly armed and strategically superior M23 rebels who are supported by the reckless president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Our government has deliberately misled the people. The reality is that our soldiers are fighting an enemy that has better weaponry, better resources, and better intelligence. While the rebels possess advanced military equipment, our soldiers are sent to battle without drones, without fighter jets, and without critical military assets. They are left vulnerable, fighting a war they cannot win, all because of the failures of this government. The recent M23 offensive on Goma has highlighted significant shortcomings in the South African National Defence Force deployment. Intelligence failures were evident as the SNDF lacked timely and accurate information to anticipate the M23 movements, leaving our forces unprepared for the assault. Coordination between the South African National Defence Force, regional allies, and the Congolese military was inadequate, leading to a fragmented response and over-reliance on local forces that quickly collapsed under pressure. The SNDF response can also be criticized for its sluggishness, allowing M23 to seize strategic positions before effective action was taken. Political considerations were often overshadowed military necessities, limiting our forces' effectiveness. Leadership on the ground also failed to provide clear directives, resulting in disorganized retreats and unprepared casualties. These issues culminated in tragic losses. For over a decade, we have watched as the South African National Defence Force has been systematically weakened. Budget cuts have crippled our military ability to function effectively. Aircrafts and helicopters that should provide air cover for our troops are grounded due to lack of maintenance. The government has neglected its duty to ensure that our soldiers are adequately prepared and equipped for combat. This is despite the fact that this deployment has cost our government 2.3 billion since it began. But it does not end there. The defense sector has been ravished by corruption. Officials at Diale have looted and mismanaged funds, selling South Africa's defense technology to foreign entities. This is nothing short of treason. At the same time, the Department of Defense has wasted over 250 million outsourcing IT services while ignoring existing in-house capabilities. This is a blatant theft of state resources, and it is our soldiers who pay the price. We must be clear, the deployment of our troops in the DRC is not about achieving peace. It is about sacrificing our soldiers for war that has no end in sight. This government continues to send them to die in foreign land, and when they do, their bodies are not even repatriated with the dignity they deserve. We are still waiting for the bodies, even after the Chief of Defense said the bodies will come the following day. The South African National Defence Force soldiers who passed away in the last few weeks have still not arrived home, with several delays being blamed, which is unacceptable. The families of these fallen soldiers are left waiting, grieving and struggling for answers. Our troops be brought home immediately. We cannot allow more lives to be lost in a senseless conflict while corrupt politicians continue to loot and mismanage our defense resources. Bring them back home now. This past weekend, South Africa participated in a joint SADC and East African Community Summit in Tanzania to discuss DRC crisis. We agree that there must be ceasefire, and we agree that the chiefs of the military must come together to create a clear passage of the ceasefire. Re role now baetapele ba ANC le rekisitse bana ba rena le re tsegisha ka matekere. Thank you.
Asked by the Honorable Kedisaletse.
House Chairperson, thank you. I'll be taking the follow-up question on behalf of Honorable Kedisaletse. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Understanding that you have been in this position for the few months and that you have been appraised with all the challenges surrounding the slow pace with which houses are delivered to the people, can you, Minister, give us an assurance that those who have registered for houses way back in 1996 but still have not received their houses, will they, under your leadership, receive their houses that are due to them? Thus addressing the backlog. And what are the audit and verification mechanisms will you apply to verify the validity of the beneficiary list, and will the beneficiary list be published for those who are still awaiting to receive their houses? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. It's a new question, but I will respond to it. An honorable member is laughing at me because she agrees. There is a slow pace, yes, in terms of delivery. Currently, we are sitting at about 4 to 5 million houses that have been settled, built. The strategy for the department in terms of the amendment of the housing policy, which is in front of the portfolio committee now, is moving towards service stands, but leaving the vulnerable and those old in the list, like your 1996, who are beneficiaries who should be able to receive. I'm not sure if, honorable member, we will be permitted, due to POPIA, to release a list of beneficiaries which details information intimately of whom members are. But I'm sure we can take advice, because such list is about South Africans who should be beneficiaries, and we should, once the system has been updated and is up and running after our proficiency test with SITA, be in a position to convince South Africans that in this province, in this municipality, in this metro, this is the status quo of our beneficiary list. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you.
As well as the loss of firearms. I see it says that you've lost about 741 firearms in this financial year, stolen or lost. one of the two, which means that you're fighting crime against your own weapons. It's discouraging. What are we doing about that? Are the SAPS members who are losing the firearms being investigated? Are they being punished? Are they being held accountable? Because to lose a firearm should be a very difficult thing. How many people have been identified who have actually been part and parcel of selling these arms on the black market, who are part of the South African police services? So I don't want it to be mischaracterized as if I'm launching an attack on SAPS, but SAPS must also not adopt an attitude, which is a global phenomenon, of having each other's backs, even in instances of corruption. So I don't want it to be misconstrued as if I'm launching some attack on the South African police services, but we must also ensure that we don't create a culture which is prevalent in police services, where police have each other's backs, even in bad things. So I'm curious as well about the loss and theft of firearms. Is it really a loss or theft, or is there a black market where the firearms of police services are being sold and under?
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I'm trying to assist you. Please don't close our suggestions out. So on rule book, rule number 138, subsection 4, Deputy Speaker, it says, and I read, if a minister and his or her deputy ministers are absent on the day when questions relating to the relevant ministry are to be answered, the minister may authorize another cabinet member to reply to your question directed at that minister. Now, Deputy Speaker, it's clear that the deputy minister is incapacitated. He's clueless, doesn't know what's happening in the department. That's why he can even rely on artificial intelligence. So ministers are here of the GNU. The rule book says they must then answer this question, Deputy Speaker. Unless if they also want to confirm that they don't have capacity, then we know that we are leaderless in this country. There are no ministers, there are no deputy ministers, there are careerists who come here to take money of the state and just go and
you have made your point, Honorable Motwe.
Deputy Speaker, we can't continue like this. Thank you.
Honorable Motwe.
People who are white, are foreigners or South Africans. None of you can make that determination. But I can tell you, you can tell that through smell, through a sight, through touch. You tell us that this one is not South African. Whereas you have Xhosas in Zimbabwe, you have Xhosas in South Africa, you have Ndebeles in Zimbabwe, you have Zulus in Zimbabwe. And this 1884 Berlin Conference still has an effect even today. That is the impact of a root. And we're not acknowledging and undoing it. We have to undo everything that Verwoerd has done, including education. We need to educate our people. If we're going to truly liberate our people, everything that the apartheid government did, we must undo. Meaning education, special development, all of that must be undone by a government that cares for our people. And that government is...
Thank you very much, and greetings to the Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF. House Chairperson, the EFF supports the report of the Portfolio Committee of the Committee of Communications and Digital Technologies on the oversight visit to the Eastern Cape. The oversight visits, which were in Alfred Nzo and Tambo municipalities, focused on key programs such as the rollout of the SA Connect broadband policy and status update on the South African Post Office. As the EFF, we agree that vandalism and damage to infrastructure remains a major concern with regards to effective rollout of telecommunications and ICT infrastructure, and there needs to be access to information beyond increases in security. The EFF is of the belief that the department must explore the usage of non-valuable alternative materials to roll out ICT and telecommunications infrastructure, to discourage theft of materials such as copper and precious metals, and that should be done away with as part of ICT infrastructure development. The Mount Aleph Post Office was a perfect example of the root causes of the collapse of SAPO, with one of the reasons being its model of leasing private buildings to run its affairs. The EFF has said in the past and maintains that institutions such as the South African Post Office must operate in state-owned buildings to avoid incurring debts to landlords which pose a financial risk, and that the former building where this branch operated is now derelict is an indictment. Urgent interventions, financially with regards to operations, are required at SAPO, and the EFF remains firm that retrenchments and closures of SAPO branches are not a method of business rescue, but a method of destruction for purposes of privatization of postal and communications services. House Chairperson, and perhaps in closing, Oversight refers to an act of individual members of parliament or a committee going to an institution to ascertain whether such institutions serve a specified mandate. If we go to Bheki Mhlangeni Hospital in Soweto as part of oversight as parliamentarians, and the nurses there tell us that there's no medication, then we can, as parliamentarians, return to this House and present a report collectively, agreeing that there's no medication in that hospital, and on such a basis, we can support reports. We find it, therefore, to be a tragedy that when there is a misinterpretation of rejection as revolution by members of parliament, we must plead with those who hold this notion not to recruit us into this delusion. And my advice to those with less experience would be that we have also been previously misled before by someone who trusted us with our parliamentary caucus to reject things for rejection's sake. And at times, we were also given dry and uninspiring speeches at the last minute. I suggest you start your rejection there, not with meaningful parliamentary engagements. The EFF owes its loyalty to the people of South Africa and no one else. Members in this House and their affiliates must not make their illiteracy and misunderstanding of parliamentary work our problem. The EFF supports this report.
Thank you. The IFP.